I have had enough of your defiance. You are not welcome on these grounds until your suspension is lifted. Get out of my sight!
There is a specific texture to the silence in a principal's office waiting room that feels less like peace and more like the holding of breath before a deep dive. It is the sound of time stalling, of a clock ticking on the wall with a rhythm that seems to mock the beating of your own heart. I've been sitting here for 45 minutes, staring at a poster on the opposite wall that says, "Excellence is a choice," in bold red letters, and I am trying to calculate the exact moment when my existence became a disruption. They call me Marcus. My transcript says I am a senior, an honor roll student, a tutor for the younger grades, a quiet presence in the back of the lecture hall. But today, on this yellow slip of paper that the secretary typed up with aggressive keystrokes, I am defined by a single word: disruptive. It's a heavy word. It carries weight. It drags behind it a history of assumptions, a lineage of boys who looked like me and were told they were too loud when they were merely existing, too aggressive when they were merely standing, too present when they were expected to be invisible. I look at my hands. They are calm. They are steady. I am wearing my navy hoodie, the one I wear when I need to feel enclosed, safe, wrapped in something that is mine. In this light, the blue looks almost black, and I wonder if that's what they see when they look at me. Not the fabric, but the darkness they project onto it. The air conditioning hums a low, monotonous drone, vibrating against the baseboards, and I focus on that sound to keep my mind from spiraling into the anger that they expect from me. That is the trap, isn't it? To accuse you of chaos so that you react with chaos, thereby proving them right. But I learned the game a long time ago. I learned that my silence is my shield, and my composure is my weapon. I am 22 years old, trying to finish a degree, trying to keep my head down and my grades up. Yet here I am, waiting to be sentenced for a crime I didn't commit, in a room that smells of stale coffee and bureaucratic indifference. The secretary hasn't looked at me once. She types, she answers the phone, she shuffles papers, but she does not see me. To her, I am just another body in the chair, another problem to be processed, another statistic to be filed away in a cabinet that is already overflowing with stories like mine. I close my eyes for a second and breathe in. I can feel the phone in my pocket, pressing against my thigh. It is a small weight, a rectangular piece of glass and metal, but right now it feels like the heaviest thing in the room. It feels like an anchor. It feels like the only difference between the truth and the version of the story they are currently writing behind that closed oak door. I wonder what they are saying in there. I wonder how they are framing it. Are they talking about my potential? Or are they talking about the threat I pose to the learning environment? It's funny how disruption is subjective. A dropped book is an accident for some, and an act of rebellion for others. A question asked in a firm tone is intellectual curiosity for some, and insubordination for others. I have spent 4 years walking these halls on eggshells, measuring the volume of my laugh, adjusting the stride of my walk, softening the bass in my voice, all to avoid this exact moment. And yet, here we are. The door handle turns. The latch clicks. The sound echoes in the small room like a gunshot. It is time.
To understand the waiting room, you have to understand the library. It was Tuesday. The library is usually my sanctuary, a place where the smell of old paper and dust acts as a barrier against the noise of the outside world. I was studying for finals, deep in the mechanics of thermodynamics, trying to understand how heat transfers, how energy moves from one system to another. It is ironic, thinking back on it, that I was studying the laws of reaction just as a reaction was about to be forced upon me. The library was quiet, save for the scratching of pencils and the soft turning of pages. I was alone at my table, my hoodie up because the AC was blasting directly onto my neck. That was the first strike, I suppose, the hoodie. Hoodies are comfortable, but in the wrong eyes, they are disguises, they are threats. Mrs. Gable, the substitute monitor for the day, didn't know me. She didn't know that I had the highest GPA in the physics department. She didn't know that I stayed late to help the janitor, Mr. Henderson, put the chairs up. All she saw was a shape in the corner, a silhouette of a black man in a hoodie, and her internal alarm system went off. I felt her presence before I heard her. It's a survival instinct you develop, the feeling of being watched. I looked up, pulling one earbud out, expecting a question about a book or a request to move a chair. Instead, I was met with a finger pointing directly at my face. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was sharp, cutting through the stillness of the room. She asked me what I was doing. I told her I was studying. She told me I looked suspicious. She told me I was loitering in a place designed for learning. The accusation was so absurd I almost laughed, but I caught myself. I knew that a laugh would be read as disrespect. I knew that a smile would be read as mocking. So I froze. I felt the heat rising in my chest, the rush of adrenaline that tells you to fight or flee, but I commanded my body to remain stone. "I am just studying, ma'am," I said, my voice low, even, controlled. But she wasn't listening to my words. She was listening to her own fear. She began to escalate, her voice rising, drawing the attention of other students. She accused me of making noise, of disturbing the peace, of being aggressive when I hadn't moved an inch. It was in that moment, as she stepped closer, invading my personal space, that I made the decision. It wasn't a conscious plan, but a reflex born of necessity. My hand slid over my phone, which was face down on the table. I didn't make a show of it. I didn't hold it up like a shield. I simply tapped the side button, the shortcut I had programmed for moments exactly like this. The screen didn't light up. The recording app started in the background, a silent witness to a loud injustice. I needed a witness. I knew with a sinking feeling in my gut that if this went to the office, it would be her word against mine. And in the history of this institution, in the history of this country, the word of a frantic authority figure always outweighs the word of a calm black student. So I let the tape roll. I let it catch the tremor in her voice as she fabricated a conflict out of thin air. I let it catch the silence of my own responses. The polite, "Yes, ma'am," the "I understand, ma'am," the "I am packing up now, ma'am." I packed my books slowly, deliberately, while she continued to berate me for an aggression that existed only in her mind. I walked out of that library with my head high, but my spirit was bruising. I knew what was coming next. I knew the narrative was already being spun, but I also knew I had the truth in my pocket, digitized and undeniable.
Mr. Holloway's office is designed to intimidate. It is a theater of authority. The desk is too wide, forcing you to stand at a distance where you have to raise your voice slightly to be heard, which immediately puts you at a disadvantage. The bookshelves are lined with leather-bound volumes that look like they've never been opened, props in a play about wisdom. He sits there, adjusting his glasses, looking at a file that contains my life on paper, but he isn't really reading it. He has already made up his mind. I can see it in the set of his jaw, the way he doesn't offer me a seat. "Marcus," he begins, and the way he says my name sounds less like an address and more like a disappointment. Mrs. Gable has filed a serious report. He uses words like insubordination, hostility, and intimidation. These are buzzwords. They are the bricks used to build the wall that separates me from my future. I try to speak. I try to say, "Sir, that's not what happened." But he holds up a hand, a stop sign made of flesh and bone. "She felt threatened, Marcus. Do you understand the gravity of that? A teacher felt unsafe in your presence." The sentence hangs in the air, heavy and toxic. Unsafe. Because I sat. Because I studied. Because I exist. He talks about zero-tolerance policies. He talks about the need to maintain order. He talks about how my behavior, my alleged behavior, disrupts the sanctity of the educational environment. I listen to him dismantle my character, piece by piece. He paints a picture of a young man I do not recognize, a thug, a rebel, a danger. And the hardest part is not the accusations themselves, but the realization that he believes them. He doesn't need evidence. He doesn't need to check the security cameras. He doesn't need to interview the other students in the library. Mrs. Gable's fear is the only evidence he requires. Her feelings are facts. My reality is debatable. I stand there, hands clasped behind my back, feeling the vibration of the floorboards as students walk in the hallway outside. They are going to class, going to lunch, living their lives, while mine is being paused. I think about my father. I think about how he told me that I have to work twice as hard to get half as far. I think about how he taught me to never let them see you sweat. So I don't. I keep my face neutral. I keep my eyes locked on the bridge of Mr. Holloway's nose because looking him in the eyes might be seen as aggression, but looking away would be seen as guilt. It is a tightrope walk, balancing on the thin line of acceptable black masculinity. I want to scream. I want to flip the desk. I want to ask him how he sleeps at night knowing he is ruining lives based on a whim. But I don't. I swallow the scream. It burns going down, like acid, settling in my stomach, adding to the ulcer of resentment that grows with every interaction like this. I am suspending you for 3 days, he says finally, dropping the hammer, pending a disciplinary hearing. 3 days. Missed lectures, missed labs, a black mark on my permanent record, a stain that colleges will see, a stain that employers will see. He thinks he is teaching me a lesson about respect. He thinks he is solving a problem. He has no idea that he is the problem. He has no idea that the young man standing in front of him holds the key to dismantling this entire charade. But not yet. I cannot play my hand yet. I need him to commit to this. I need it in writing. I need the injustice to be absolute, so the vindication can be total.
The suspension slip is a flimsy piece of yellow paper, carbon copied and smelling of chemicals. It looks insignificant, like a receipt from a grocery store, but it costs so much more. It costs dignity. It costs time. Mr. Holloway slides it across the desk with a finality that suggests the conversation is over. He expects me to crumble. He expects me to beg, to plead, to cry, or to lash out. That is the script he is used to. He is waiting for the disruptive behavior to manifest so he can say, "See, I told you so." But I deny him that satisfaction. I pick up the paper with steady fingers. I fold it neatly, once, twice, ensuring the edges align perfectly. It is a small act of control in a situation where I have none. As I fold it, I read the words one last time. Reason for suspension, verbal abuse of staff, refusal to comply, aggressive posturing. Aggressive posturing. The phrase loops in my mind. Standing still is aggressive. Breathing while black is aggressive. I put the paper in my pocket, right next to the phone. The poison and the antidote, sitting side by side against my thigh. I turn to leave. The walk to the door feels like walking through water. The air is thick with the unspoken tension. I can feel Holloway's eyes on my back, watching me, waiting for me to slam the door. I turn the handle gently. I open the door. I step out. I close the door softly, with a click that is barely audible. Once I am in the hallway, the noise of the school rushes back in. Lockers slamming, laughter, the squeak of sneakers on linoleum. It is a jarring contrast to the tomb-like silence of the office. I feel a wave of nausea. The reality of what just happened starts to sink in. I am suspended. Me, Marcus, the guy who stays after school to tutor, the guy who wants to be an engineer. How am I going to tell my mother? She works 2 jobs to keep me in this school district. She wakes up before the sun to ensure I have a chance at a life she never had. This piece of yellow paper is going to break her heart, and that hurts more than the suspension itself. The shame of it. Even though I am innocent, the shame clings to me. It feels like a film on my skin. I see students passing by, and I wonder if they know. I wonder if they can see the mark on me. I pull my hood up. I know I shouldn't. They just told me it makes me look dangerous, but I need to hide. I need to disappear for a moment. I walk towards the exit, my steps heavy. I am walking away from my education, forced out by a system that sees my ambition as a threat. But as I push open the heavy double doors and step into the sunlight, a cold resolve settles over me. They think this is the end. They think they have discarded me. They are wrong. This is not the end of the story. This is just the inciting incident. They have given me a yellow slip of paper, but I have a digital file that speaks the truth. They want a hearing? I'll give them a hearing. I'll give them a show they will never forget. I touch my pocket again. The phone is warm. It is ready.
There are people in this school who see everything, but are asked nothing. Mr. Henderson is one of them. He has been the custodian here for 30 years. He knows the secrets of this building better than the principal does. He knows which lockers jam, which pipes leak, and which teachers smile to your face, but watch you with suspicion when you turn your back. I find him by the loading dock, sweeping up leaves that have gathered near the vents. He sees me coming, sees the set of my shoulders, the way I'm holding my backpack like it's a shield. He stops sweeping. He leans on his broom, a stance of patient wisdom. "They got you?" he asks. He doesn't need to ask who they are. We both know. I nod, pulling the yellow slip from my pocket. He doesn't read it. He just shakes his head, a slow, mournful movement. "Disruptive?" he guesses. "Aggressive," I correct him. He chuckles, a dry sound without humor. "Same difference to them, son. You know that." We stand there for a moment in the shadow of the brick building. This is the unofficial guidance counselor session. This is the mentorship that doesn't appear on any brochure. Mr. Henderson looks at me, his eyes crinkled at the corners, eyes that have seen generations of boys like me walk through these doors and get chewed up. "You lose your temper?" he asks, looking me dead in the eye. "No," I say. "You raise your voice?" "No." "You give them a reason?" "No." He nods, satisfied. "Good. That's the most important thing. You didn't give them the fuel." He pauses, looking out at the parking lot. "Listen to me, Marcus. They want you to break. They push you until you crack, and then they punish you for the cracks they made. It's an old game. But you're built different. I've seen you in the library. I've seen you study. You got a quiet fire. Don't let them douse it, and don't let it burn you up." I tell him about the recording. Just a whisper. "I got it on tape, Mr. Henderson. The whole thing." His eyebrows shoot up. A slow smile spreads across his face, revealing a gold tooth. "Is that a fact?" he says. "You got the receipts?" I got the receipts. He laughs them, a real laugh, deep and resonant. He claps a heavy hand on my shoulder. "Then you go home. You rest. You let them think they won. And when that hearing comes, you play that music. You let the truth sing." He squeezes my shoulder. "But remember, even after you win, watch your back. Truth makes people free, but it makes liars angry." I thank him. I walk away feeling lighter. Mr. Henderson isn't the principal. He doesn't have a degree on the wall, but he validated my reality when the world tried to erase it. He reminded me that I am not crazy, and I am not alone. There is a lineage of survival here, passed down in whispers by the loading dock, and today, I am part of it.
The hearing room is designed to make you feel small. The table is vast, separating the accusers from the accused like a canyon. On one side sits the institution, Mr. Halloway looking pious, Mrs. Gable looking like a victim, clutching a tissue she doesn't need, and two board members who look at their watches, eager to get this formality over with so they can go to lunch. On this side sits my family, my mother in her Sunday best, her jaw set like steel, my father wearing his work suit, his hands folded into fists on the table, and me. They start the proceedings with a list of my offenses. Halloway reads the report. He uses his serious voice. He talks about the sanctity of the classroom and the fear Mrs. Gable felt. Mrs. Gable adds her testimony, her voice quivering with a performance worthy of an award. She says I loomed over her. She says I shouted. She says I refused to leave. It is a masterpiece of fiction. My mother stiffens beside me. I can feel her desire to speak, to defend her son. But we agreed on the strategy. Silence first. Let them dig the hole. Let them lay out every lie until there is no room for retreat. When they are finished, the room falls silent. One of the board members looks at me over his spectacles. "Marcus, do you have anything to say for yourself? Do you deny these events?" This is the moment, the pivot point. I stand up slowly. I don't shout. I don't argue. I simply reach into my pocket and pull out my phone. I place it gently in the center of the polished wood table. "I don't expect you to take my word for it," I say, my voice calm, filling the room. "I know that my word has limited currency here, so I brought you the event itself." I see Halloway's eyes widen slightly. I see Mrs. Gable stop sniffing. Confusion ripples through them. "What is this?" Halloway asks. "This," I say, unlocking the screen, is the audio recording of the entire interaction in the library, starting from the moment Mrs. Gable approached me. The silence that follows is absolute. It is a vacuum. You can hear the hum of the overhead lights. You can hear the sudden intake of breath from Mrs. Gable. She knows. In that split second, her eyes dart to the door, panic setting in. She knows what is on that tape, but it's too late. I press play. The audio is crisp,
It cuts through the room. First, the silence of the library. Then Mrs. Gable's voice, shrill, unprovoked, aggressive. "What do you think you're doing?" The contrast is jarring. Then my voice, calm, respectful. "Studying, ma'am." The recording plays on. It reveals her escalation. It reveals her insults. It reveals her shouting at a boy who is whispering back. It reveals the lie. I watch the board members. I watch their faces shift from boredom to shock to embarrassment. I watch Holloway sink lower in his chair. The truth is not just being heard, it is being felt. The recording ends with the sound of me packing my bag and walking away, while she screams about suspension in the background. I stop the tape. I look at the board members. "I was suspended for disruptive behavior," I say. "I ask you, who sounds disruptive to you?"